Hello, everybody. Welcome to the E2KGN30 podcast, episode number 20, coming at you from the GWW network. That's the Geeks Worldwide network. It is Thursday, November 2nd. And for you new people, or people who haven't watched this episode before, or this show before, this is the Enough to Keep Going news in 30 minutes or so. Try to keep it under 30 minutes as much as possible, or at 30 minutes. But we're going to go through our news stories that we've picked out this past week that we found interesting. And with me tonight is Mr. Agasicles Stamos. How you doing? I don't know if he's muted. Maybe?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, the controls for Google Hangout didn't show up for me to unmute. So, yeah, I'm doing good. I'll just say I'm doing good.
Okay.
I have stuff to talk about that I'm pretty excited about, but I'll probably have to hold that off until Enough to Keep Going next week. Am I on Enough to Keep Going next week? I don't even know.
I'm not sure. We'll have to check that as we go through the show here.
I will.
But let's keep you on the mic, because up first is some PlayStation Plus free game news, if you want to hit that.
Yeah, so over on the PlayStation blog, the PlayStation Plus free games for November have been revealed. And so it's kind of interesting. It's a bit of an eclectic mix and it's kind of weird where the nice things really are. So on PlayStation 4, and I kind of don't like this, but the two games are Worms Battlegrounds. That I do like because that's one of those games that I've dabbled in. I've dabbled in some of the Worms stuff, but generally it's not something that I'll go looking for. And I hate to say it, but it's not something that I'll generally pay for with my limited games picks throughout the year. So it's kind of cool that it's showing up on PS Plus, because then I will give it a whirl. I think actually one of my first games on maybe this is one that I paid for. I may already have this game because it may have been a launch title, and I may have grabbed it because there wasn't much else. We also get Bound on PS4 and PSVR. Now this is what I don't like. I'm not particularly crazy about a PSVR game occupying one of the slots. It is apparently it's listed as PS4/PSVR, so I believe it's playable outside of VR. But generally, I've never gone looking for a game that was designed for PSVR but added on a non-VR mode. So questionable in terms of its worthwhileness for my playtime, at least. And then we have Until Dawn: Rush of Blood, also on PS Plus, but that is PSVR required. There's some game called That's You. I think that's like a game show or a puzzle game or something. I'm not really certain. We'll skip it. Because the next thing is much more exciting, which is R-Type Dimensions on PlayStation 3. So this is the thing that's kind of weird for me this month. It's really the stuff on PlayStation 3 that I find most interesting. And I'm very happy and pleased that the PlayStation 3 is, I think, maybe the first console that I've ever kept around past its actual life cycle as the premier console for any given company. So R-Type Dimensions and Ragdoll Kung Fu, which is a 2D game, but looks very interesting. It's kind of a little like claymation, kind of like Ragdoll. The full title is Ragdoll Kung Fu Fists of Plastic. And then Dungeon Punks shows up on PS Vita. It says PSVR also, but I didn't get a look at what it looks like on PSVR. And then Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse, episodes 1 and 2, also show up on the Vita, for those of you who still have that handheld.
I'm sure there's people out there.
There are people out there holding on to it with their...
I still love it.
Death-like Kung Fu grip.
All right, yeah, some good games there. So, the PS3, can you play PS3 games on PS4, or no? Is it backwards compatible, or can you get it somehow?
No, I don't know, because the only thing... I don't believe so. I think the only way to get to backwards compatibility on the PS4 is through PlayStation Now, which is a subscription-paid monthly service.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, that's still cool. You can get it that way, I suppose. Oh, yeah, okay. Never mind. I answered my own question just now as I was thinking about it. All right, so you're going to pick up most of those, all of those? Well, obviously, except for the VR ones, I guess.
Yeah, the more and more I think about it, the more I'm pretty sure I own that Worms game, and it's kind of a thing that I like. It's kind of like a scab that I pick at like for 5 minutes at a time every I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year. So I'll probably pass up that one, but I'm definitely pulling down the 2 PlayStation 3 games. Yep.
Nice. All right, let's jump to the next next article here, next news story. I got some Amazon news, some Amazon gaming-related news here. So Amazon has opened up a retro zone, as it's called, store, kind of offshoot on their website. So if you go to it here, they have all kinds of different retro-type gaming. So up at the top, they have their mobile games, obviously, because they have their own mobile store for their app store, their Amazon app store. So they have like SNK games and Double Dragon as a couple of the ones they have here. They have retro console gamings, where obviously you can get like SNES Mini if you can find it, if they have it in stock, and other kind of smaller mini consoles like that. I don't know, they have Atari ones and Genesis ones that they have thrown out there. I think they might be coming out with a new Sega one, I believe, Genesis one, if I remember correctly. We've talked about that, where it's like an officially licensed one from Sega. But you'll have stuff like that, and then they have clothing and books. So obviously, 8-bit, 16-bit, stuff like that you can buy, books and all kinds of stuff. So I thought, it was kind of cool, kind of a neat thing that they're doing now. Obviously, retro's big. It's the in thing nowadays. They have the one game is on there, Stranger Things, the game, which is obviously if you watch the show. Set back in the 80s, so they do that kind of, it's like that 8-bit type of gameplay, graphic wise. So I thought that was kind of cool, something different that I wanted to report on this week, other than my usual stuff. But I don't know if you have any interest in any of this, or if you're into retro gaming at all.
No, not really.
You do have a retro shirt on, though.
I do have a retro shirt. This one purchased by my wife. So
okay.
No, I just actually a friend of mine on Twitter, Kevin Medeiros, and I were kind of bouncing that back and forth a few weeks ago, and it's look, the people who like that stuff, I get it and I understand it, and I love you guys for it, right? It's just not me, and Kevin and I felt the same way. It's like my current backlog is so I can't put like 30 more retro games like in my backlog, right? Because stuff retro or near retro stuff is always going on sale on Steam. We're already adding that stuff, and my current backlog of just 2017 games, right, is hard for me to imagine getting through. So
right, to keep up.
Yeah, no.
Right. No, it's there if you want to get to it.
Right.
Let's see.
Might be good. I keep mentioning that might be the kind of a thing that's good for my kids to get them into gaming.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Throw it on a tablet or something, or the phone. Yep, definitely. All right, so from retro to the latest and greatest of games here, we got some EA Battlefront 2 news. So EA, when they had their Battlefront 2 beta a month or so ago, I think it is now, a couple months maybe, month and a half. So yeah, obviously that came through, and they went back and got all the feedback back from that game. And on a post on their official website, they said they're going to change the way the crate system works, basically, the loot crate stuff, and just how you progress through the game and how you get things. So I'm going to run through some of the changes real quick here. So one of the things I guess you would get are the Epic Star cards, which would give you like higher tiered weapons, or higher tiered weapons and armor and stuff like that. So that's going to be removed from crates now. The only way you'll be able to get those is if through leveling through while you're playing the game. So that's cool. It's not, because obviously with those crates, or whatever they call them in there, you can just pay real money, and you'd have a chance to get those epic weapons and stuff like that. So so they said most of the weapons will just be unlocked, as you progress through the game. There will still be a few, I guess, weapons in those star cards, but I'm assuming, hopefully they're going to be rare, so they're not just popping up everywhere. So there's that. You also get to, after you reach a certain rank, you can craft different star cards, and you won't be able to just, buy a bunch of crates and, just break down everything and, craft the highest tiered star cards. You're going to have to progress, obviously. It's the same way you're going to have to progress through the game to get the higher material, I guess, to craft those bigger items. Once again, weapons are locked behind specific milestones. So as you progress, you'll get different weapons for that certain class. So there's different classes now. I can't remember in the first one if it was broken down into classes. It's been a while since I played the first Battlefront, but you have the heavy class and sniper class and stuff like that now in this one. So as you progress through those ones, you'll get certain class-specific gear and items that you'll unlock, and also crates that you can only get through that class, so you can't just buy it outright. So that's cool. I thought that was kind of neat that they actually, which is kind of different from what last week or 2 weeks ago when they were saying we want to okay, they didn't say this outright, but they're kind of leaning more toward the Destiny and kind of microtransactions type of gaming. So at least here in this game, they've kind of dialed that back, and they're kind of listening to the fans, and that Star Wars maybe they just don't want to piss off all those fans, so they kind of dialed it back and just let it go through the leveling system. And then they also reaffirmed that all future weapons, maps, heroes, and vehicles and all that stuff, when it comes out in DLC, it's going to be totally free. So that's cool too, which is kind of surprising. Very surprised about that, but that's cool. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so EA has had a few opportunities this week to backtrack, end around, turn tail, and do everything it can to try and reverse the negative. I was going to say negative animosity, but animosity is always negative. Reverse the trend of animosity that they've been generating. And in some ways, I kind of feel bad for them because I don't necessarily think that it's. And this is EA, right? I frequently get their evil and Activision's evil mixed up.
Yes, this is EA evil.
Right. So you have Battlefront 2 about to come out. You have the whole loot crate controversy that started up a few weeks ago. In between that, you have the closing of the Visceral studio, and everybody flipping out.
Yep.
And
that's the single player, basically.
Right.
What everybody's crying.
Right. And you had the earnings calls, right? So EA has heavily been trying to reverse the track on this and say that what they're doing with Battlefront 2 is what they did with Visceral is not necessarily informed by what people thought they were going to do with Battlefront 2, and they're changing what they were going to do with Battlefront 2, so stop flipping out, and we're not out to get all your money. But they are. Now, I'm half and half with them, right? I feel like my personal belief is that the closing of the Visceral studio didn't happen without that team being talked to probably more than once, so I'm gonna side with management here, based on that assumption. I didn't like what they were doing with Battlefront 2, and it sounds like they're trying to walk that back. I don't feel about them as with as much displeasure as I view Activision right now with their patent reveal. So it's just been an interesting time, and I think I don't even know if EA did the right thing by speaking to it at the earnings call and continuously pounding the bricks about this isn't what we're doing, this isn't what they're doing. I personally think last week, which you guys did a great job on Enough to Keep Going earlier this week, focusing on, we had 3 of the biggest releases of the year all come out at one time, arguably the biggest weekend in gaming in maybe since the launch of the consoles, right, with Assassin's Creed Origins, Super Mario Odyssey, and what's the one that I'm forgetting?
Shadow of War?
No,
I'm sorry. Wolfenstein.
Yes, with Wolfenstein, right? And I think, quite honestly, I think those news stories dropped at a lull in between Destiny 2 coming out and these games coming out, and they grabbed the news cycle. If I were EA, and quite frankly any of the other publishers, I would shut up at this point, let your games speak for themselves. Everybody's going to be playing them for weeks on end. We're barreling into Thanksgiving, just let that stuff lie. But in general, I give EA the benefit of the doubt. But I think they were headed down a bad path, and they are trying to backpedal from it.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to, they saw what the results from the beta, and, they're trying to correct things. So, and that's probably more, really not EA, but DICE in this case. But still, part of the, the larger structure of EA, but, we'll see. And like I said, it's Star Wars, so they probably don't want to, like I said, they don't want to get those fans all in a tizzy, because they can just turn on you in a second, and there go those sales. So, all right. So, speaking of sales, let's jump into some Switch news. I actually got 3 different stories here that I'm going to kind of go through real quick, and then I will let Zeus comment, because I think he's got a comment on one of these stories for sure, I believe, on one of the survey results. If I saw his Twitter comment here a little bit, actually, just a few minutes ago.
Oh, wait, did we, I apologize, did we skip the Microsoft news?
Oh, did I jump through that one? I'm sorry. I think you added one, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, I did. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead if you want to.
So this story I found over on DualShocker. So Microsoft working to replenish Xbox One X stock quickly, expects greater demand than supply. So basically, I'm going to summarize the article very quickly because the commentary I think is more important. But this is Xbox saying, hey, if you've pre-ordered, you're good. If you haven't pre-ordered, I would. If you haven't pre-ordered, you might still be able to get some trail stock that we're holding back if you walk into a store on the day of launch. But in general, if you want one, you should pre-order. So thanks for the heads up, Microsoft. And look, I'm an Xbox fan and an Xbox loyalist. I'm interested in the Xbox One. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to do it this quarter or this holiday season, but the whole thing of like trying to warn us that that there might not be enough Xbox Ones. I don't know if that's the right approach to take in a year where Nintendo just revised their projected sale numbers for the Switch up to like 14 or 17 million. Like, here's the news, Microsoft. If your Xbox One X isn't on store shelves when people walk in, and the Switch is, people are going to buy a Switch. So I don't think it's up to us who need to pre-order. I think you need to figure out your supply problem and get it fixed, because there are tons of options out there right now. And quite frankly, somebody, if they're on a baseline Xbox One and an Xbox One X isn't there, they might just buy a One S if they don't necessarily know what the value add is in the One X, which I think the closer we're getting to launch, people who are not inside the camp of the Xbox One X fearsome loyalists might be questioning.
Yeah, that's like you. I'm interested in this console, but I'm probably gonna wait for a while actually for a price drop. A little bit pricey for me this time around. I don't want to spend another $500 on another system right now. So but the one thing I was kind of thinking of too, though, if they do have it on the shelves here, and you see the Xbox One X, $499 next to. Even if they do have it in the stores, it's still next to the Switch. That's and parents and grandparents. The holiday season, they're gonna they want to buy a console, and they see that $499 versus the $299. That might not be the best thing either. Maybe, yeah. Like I said, I don't know who this is for. I suppose. I mean, it's on the gaming website, obviously, that they're reporting this, and obviously it's the gamers out there. They kind of know about it already. So I mean, I don't know. I guess it is just kind of weird that they're going this route.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing us a favor by having stock, right? We're doing you a favor by buying it. I mean, who it's for are, predominantly, singles, established people with their own money. I don't think this is for teenagers. Teenagers will buy it, but I don't think they're going to buy it in droves. Yeah. So it's for your late 20-somethings, I think, early 30-somethings and up, who have their own disposable income and can afford and have already earn the money and spend on a 4K TV and still have disposable income to buy a $500 console that's $100 more expensive than the PlayStation 3, which has sold 2 to 3 times as many units in its install base. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see what happens when it's coming up here. I mean, according to the article, they say the pre-orders are really strong. So we'll see what's going to happen. All right, so. Let's jump into the Nintendo news. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to skip that. I forgot you had thrown that in there at the last minute. So first up here, real quick, Super Mario Odyssey just came out last week, as I guess Cleese had mentioned. Nintendo's reporting that it's over the first 3 days, it sold over 2 million copies, and that's worldwide. Excuse me. And this includes both physical and digital copies, as well as the copies that came in the Switch bundles. They had the Mario bundle that came out too. I'm assuming that same day. Hold on a second here. I know also not in this RGN article that I had, but there's a different one. I think it was actually from Gamasutra. I forgot to pull it up. Actually, I forgot to send it, copy it over. But they also had mentioned that in Japan, it actually had sold. I think it was over 500,000 copies, and I guess that was like it's been like the fastest selling Mario game, I guess, in its history, which obviously, I guess, the prices would probably be around the same, because prices hasn't really changed all too much. But, and then they also said in the article that Zelda Breath of the Wild has exceeded 4.7 million copies sold. So obviously we got two heavy hitters here coming out, so that's pretty good. It's doing great numbers. I don't remember for Zelda if that includes the Wii U sales too. It doesn't say, but it might. Who knows? But we'll see. So once again, it's selling like gangbusters. So I mean, big surprise. I've been playing it. It's a great game. So I think we talked about a little bit about it on Tuesday, or not a little bit, but we talked about it on Tuesday. Not so much sale numbers, but just the games overall. And then so up next here, another of the second of my news articles here on Nintendo Switch. We have a survey which reveals who's purchasing the Switch. So, and this is from Gamasutra. Nintendo itself did this survey. This is just the U.S. And basically, I'm trying to see here how they. I lost that part. Okay, here. Over 60,000 people were replied to their survey, which they had targeted 600,000 people, but they got 60,000 replies. So 86 of the Switch buyers are men, and 11 are women. Age range: 43% fell in the 25 to 34-year-old age group, and 20% was 19 to 24-year-old people. And then also the rest were from 10 to 19, which is kind of weird, but I'm not sure how they got people like under 18, 17, 18. I'm assuming once you hit 17, I guess 16 too, you can get a job. But so ages 10 to 19, they had pretty much made up the rest of the group there.
So probably rich kids, spoiled brats at the lower end.
Spoiled brat, yeah.
And I think a lot of places have working permits available at 15. So yeah, probably 15 to 19-year-olds, maybe making their first big major purchase using their own money.
Yeah. I don't know, is there paper routes anymore? I mean, I guess younger kids can do that. Mowing the lawn. That's a lot of lawns to mow. Saving up your money over the summer. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. And also they mentioned in the article, like you had mentioned, Nintendo's basically doubling their forecast for the end of the year, or the end of the fiscal year. So it's cool. I thought that was pretty cool how they broke that down.
Yeah. Now, did you talk about the play mode article?
No, that's what I'm going to hit next.
Okay, all right.
I know that was the one you had some comments on. So yeah, the next one is they did a survey on how you play your Switch. Do you play in TV mode? Do you play on TV mode meaning docked in the dock, handheld or tabletop? Which kind of be the same thing. So I don't know if they have the percentage of people or like the total amount of people in this article. It's another Gamasutra article, but they don't. But playtime, let's see, broken down here. 20% of owners are spending about 80% of their time playing on the console while it's docked. And then about 30% of Switch owners are playing 80% of their time they are playing while undocked or in tabletop mode. So basically it's out of the dock. And then the remaining 50%, they didn't have a primary. Those two figures are primary usage. For the other 50% is they kind of just go back and forth between the two. There's no primary, undocked or docked. So good split there. For myself, I know I do play most of the time undocked, even when I'm here at home. It's just easier, I can be playing a game and have something, just playing in the background, a movie or whatever. If my wife wants to watch something, so she can, she's watching TV and I can just play, Mario or whatever on the go, so to speak. I don't think I've ever played tabletop mode yet, so I don't know. That just seems kind of weird to me, but that's just me. But recently, actually with Mario and with Fire Emblem Warriors, I have popped into the dock a little bit more, just because I want to kind of, especially with Mario, it's a little bit more. I want to say graphic intensive, but the graphics are prettier, and I want to see those landscapes, and it might be a little bit easier on the puzzles and stuff too when I'm searching for the moons. But Zeus, or I guess Cleese, how about you? What are you playing? How do you play it? Well,
as you know, I play in docked mode, which anything kind of, most anything that I have. Of that size, if I'm going to game on my iPad, very frequently I hook it up over the HDMI connector to the TV. My NVIDIA Shield Portable, same thing, probably 50% of the time or more, I connect it to my TV. So, Yeah, I was. I guess I'm a little less rage infused this time. The first time I saw it, I was like, "Get out of here with that trash! Nobody's playing this thing like undocked, sitting at home." But I think it's revealing when you talk about the age demographics, right? So if you've got a lot of young people, who are kind of Soho types and living in, have roommates and other types of things, that is a lot more logical to me. Yeah, kids in dorms in college, right? You probably just sit in your corner of the room, in your 5x5 foot square, and play, right? Yeah, and play your Nintendo Switch. So yeah, I get it. I will say, for people who have a display available, I'm surprised if they're playing undocked. I understand your situation. I think your situation is unique because I know my wife would not allow me to sit and play games while we're supposed to be on family TV time. So hats off to you.
well, hold on a second. Let me figure it out first. If it's family TV time, and yeah, I'm not going to be playing. But if if we're just doing whatever, if she wants to watch something that I normally might not watch, then I can sit there and play.
I applaud you because that description of time space in my home does not exist.
Okay. But it kind of makes sense what you're saying too, with the younger kids, the 20-year-olds, late teens, because that's kind of how they're growing up too. They're sitting there probably watching TV on their their mobile phone or their iPad, something smaller. So they're kind of used to it. I've noticed that a lot when I'm listening to like streaming podcasts or like cord cutter podcasts, where they kind of have those surveys where most of these younger people are like 80%, 90% of their time they're on their cell phone or iPad. So it does make sense. All right, so let's jump to the makers of Infamous. It looks like they got a new game coming out, coming out, but it was announced.
Yeah, so I'm muted? No. I'm pretty excited about this. I watched the trailer. It's pretty amazing. It's available in 4K and 2K, and so it looks it looks pretty amazing. Now this, I guess I lost track of the news cycle. So I guess the PlayStation announcement thing or whatever, was that today or was that earlier this week?
That was earlier. Yeah, okay. It was earlier over the weekend.
Okay. So I guess this came out of that, or
Paris week or something, whatever
right.
It's called. Yeah.
Right. So the title of the game is called Ghost of Tsushima, which sounds very close to Onimusha, but it's hardcore samurai stuff. So if you've read Shogun, if you have watched Marco Polo, I think that level of violence is what you're going to get exposed to here. I personally love the samurai culture, and so I'm excited to see them portrayed in a video game with a nod more so towards history. I don't think it's going to be historically accurate, but basically what it looks like, and it looks like the actor who's playing the primary antagonist looks like the guy who plays Kubla Khan in the Marco Polo Netflix series. So that excites me. But basically, what it looks like is it looks like it's going to be a war between Japan and the Mongols, and it looks like I think the voice line in the trailer, the guy who I think is supposed to be one of the Khans, I think he mentioned something about what the Japanese have done to them, and now they're delivering their retribution. And behind the guy, like his whole village is burned down. Women and children are crying. It's classic kind of Asian feudal era kind of stuff. And it looks amazing. It looks like you're going to have a healthy amount of powers with a healthy amount of melee, as well as some other stuff. One thing I didn't like about this write-up, this is on Kotaku, it says that the trailer features plenty of sneaky backstabbing and drama as well, suggesting some exciting action. Now, maybe I missed parts of the trailer, but obviously the samurai are not supposed to be the ones who are the backstabbers. They are the ones who kind of come at you in an honorable way, and it's the ninjas who are the backstabbers. So I'm not sure if I didn't, like, when the video opened for me, the it was a little stuttery, so it took me a while to pick a resolution that it would play well at. I think I wound up playing it at 2K, so I may have missed the first opening parts of it, but still incredibly exciting. Coming from Sucker Punch, you can't hate that. And then the last news story, for those who were paying attention this week, I actually was telling people about it last week before it happened, and then the day that it happened, I completely whiffed and missed out on it. But Razer, the company who brings us great gaming peripherals, like their Black Widow keyboard and their Death Adder mouse, has released a phone. So if you're not aware of the past history, let me run through it very quickly. A few years ago, I'm not sure exactly how many, let's say 3 to 5, Razer acquired Ouya. And shortly after acquiring Ouya, Razer put out their own Android TV gaming console box, which was a precursor to the NVIDIA Shield Android TV. A couple of years ago, Razer purchased... sorry, I got alerts going off all over here. And a couple of years ago, Razer purchased Nextbit, who was an innovative startup in the Android phone market. Nextbit's claim to fame was they had a pretty nice-looking phone that wasn't super expensive. I think it only sold in 16 and 32 gigabyte capacities because what they had patented and what their shtick was this ability for the phone to automatically offload itself of both data and applications that you hadn't used in some time, and temporarily store them in an instance in the AWS cloud. And then when you called that app to then quickly download it back to the phone so that it was available for you to use. So we had suspected when they did that Razer would shortly be releasing a phone, and they have. It is simply called the Razer phone. It is a phone for gamers. As you would expect, it is spec'd out to the max. It trumps just about everything on the market today from a spec perspective, while also coming in cheaper. It has a 120 hertz refresh rate screen, so many of us are just getting 120 hertz monitors. Some of us are just getting 120 hertz TVs. Razer now has a display that refreshes 120 times per second. The phone's going to be available on November 17th for $700. They are taking registration for pre-orders now. Don't get fooled by the headlines. There are headlines out there that say pre-orders are available. When you go to the Razer website, all it does is allow you to register your name and an email address so that you can be notified when pre-orders are available, which should be fairly soon, given that the phone launches in 15 days, so in about 2 weeks. It has a 1440 by 2560 IPS display, which is not the highest resolution in phones right now. I believe both the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 as well as the latest iPhone 8 have resolutions that are higher. It's about 5.72 inches, though, and that gives it, I want to say, like a 564 PPI, I think. It's obviously running on the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 processor, which is pretty much what all the phones are running this fall. The big thing for me is it has 8 gigs of RAM. As far as I know, there are only 2 or 3 production phones released right now that have that much RAM, and most of them, and the other 2, I don't think that configuration is necessarily available worldwide. It only has 64 gigs of onboard storage, not 128, but again, not yet announced, but I'm pretty certain that the phone's going to roll out with that Nextbit type patented offload storage feature. So it's going to feel like you have 128, even though you only have 64. It does have a micro SD card slot, which can maintain capacities up to 2 terabytes, which is really impressive. Dual rear 12 megapixel cameras, an 8 megapixel front camera, and here's the other big thing: 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Again, in terms of a commercially released phone, I think that is the largest battery that's in production on commercial phones. There may be something larger in a vertical that's made specifically for one corporation or something like that, but that's pretty darn huge. And I believe there's still features that haven't been announced yet. I know I can't remember. One of the media asked the guy who did the brief, and the guy who announced the phone was the former Nextbit CEO, who is now the director or VP of Razer Mobile. So that was kind of interesting. But I think what he was asked was what other services or what other hook is there? Why would gamers buy this phone? And of course, most gamers are attracted by high specs, so that's the one thing. I would suspect that a lot of gamers are probably more Android users than iPhone users, maybe, or maybe it's 50-50. But I think there'll be plenty of gamers who are attracted to the specs. But basically, the guy, I think his name is Moss, danced around the question a little. I suspect that there's going to be some additional services. Like I said, they haven't announced the offload-onload thing. I believe there's going to be some type of game-oriented service, and this will be allowed to run as some type of companion device. There might be a hook with for greater compatibility with Steam. But I think there's going to be some type of games as a service or something other hook, because that's what everybody's doing now. And I think there's going to be some type of curated store for games that are specifically optimized for the Razer phone. If not, Razer might have its own store, because again, Ouya had its own app store for that platform, and NVIDIA has this thing where it can access games from the Google Play Store, but they also have a very specific view that is specifically designed and coded for the Android TV. So it's a 10-foot display. It's how the games are sorted and prioritized and arranged is entirely different from what you see in the Google Play Store. And many of those games are games that have optimizations that make that version specifically for the Android TV. I expect Razer is going to have something similar.
Yeah, I heard about this the other day, and then I was looking at the article here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So is this phone just totally open, and you can use it on any service or any carrier? Or
it's an unlocked phone. It is only going to be compatible with AT&T and T-Mobile. It does not have the CDMA bands necessary to utilize with Verizon and Sprint. Now, I think what that really means is it might have some functionality on Verizon and Sprint, but it won't. You won't get the full feature set that you would have on AT&T or T-Mobile.
Oh, okay. All right, I was just wondering, because I'm due for an upgrade soon. I was like, ooh, this looks good.
Yeah, and if you're on a CDMA carrier, I gotta say, this phone, I think, is maybe worth switching for. Or you might want to do, like, if your whole family's on Sprint or Verizon, I know what I do is, when Verizon doesn't have the phone that I want, I always buy my phones off contract, so I never have any contractual obligation. But if I'm due for an upgrade and the phone that I want is unlocked but doesn't work on Verizon or Sprint, I just take my phone off, leave my family on the family plan, and then I put my phone on like an AT&T or T-Mobile pay-as-you-go plan, or put it on an MVNO that rides on those carriers towers.
Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty good. I mean, no gimmicky stuff or anything like that. It's just like a straight up, just a souped up phone. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and if you look at a couple, amazing what gamers pick up on. A few gamers I've seen, and a few have actually asked me why the emblem on the back of the phone is not the customary Razer green; it's white. They are going to sell a phone with the green emblem on the back as a special edition. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's going to be like. I suspect that it's just going to be the logo, and it's going to be first come, first serve. I don't think they're going to charge you an extra $50 for the green logo. I could be wrong.
I would say you never know.
That's what I expect. What I hope, and have my fingers crossed for, is I hope there's a limited production run of models with 128 gigs, and that will be the one with the green emblem, and that they will sell it to you for somewhere between a $50 uptick to the base price, but hopefully no more than $850.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures here. Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
Yeah,
it's just a USB-C connection.
Yes, and no headphone jack. There's a dongle in the box. It's supposed to be very good. This has Dolby Atmos, so there is going to be digital processing going on within that dongle to make it compatible with Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is a very, very particular spec that frequently people say they're compliant with, but they're not. I think a lot of Dolby Atmos receiving devices like headphones or something. I think they might have a green indicator light or something that lights up when it flips to that mode, so you'll know. But I do believe Razer is accurate. I do believe they have applied the Dolby Atmos spec correctly, so it's going to have pretty incredible sound most likely. I believe it's dual speakers on the front face, which is why there are bezels on this phone. They house the speakers. And they supposedly sound very good.
Nice. Yeah, and you had mentioned the micro SD slot. It looks like it's 2 terabyte capacity. I didn't even know there was cards that.
I thought. I mean, you and I both, right? We just recently upticked our Nintendo Switches, and as far as I thought that 200 gig capacity that was on the Switch was like the new maximum spec, but apparently they've leaked to 2 terabytes. And maybe that's been out there for a while. I don't know.
It's possible, yeah.
But.
Or they know something.
Yeah, but I've historically had problems, and I know we're going long tonight. I've historically had problems with micro SD cards on Android devices, just not with the device not being able to see all the files. Much like the Switch, and it's fortunate that I was forced to run this experiment by how finicky the Switch is about SD cards. I think that's because I've been using low-quality micro SD cards. So I'm pretty confident, because I just did a 64 gig SanDisk UHS-1 SDXC card, formatted it using the SD consortium's formatting tool, just like I used to format the micro SD card on the Switch.
Yep. Slapped
it into my Samsung Galaxy Tab A. It recognized it, and it is able to see all 6,500 of my music files. That is my stress test. I put all my whole music collection on a micro SD card, put it in a device, and see if it can find all the files. I think if it's a low quality card, I think when it tries to index the files, it will time out, and then what you'll see is any music app that you open won't enumerate all the files. It'll say that it can see like 3,000 or 4,000. So I'm pretty confident right now that if you get a SanDisk or a Lexar or a Corsair or some type of name brand UHS-1 or above card SDXC and format it using the SD consortium tool, I'm pretty confident you will be successful in utilizing that micro SD card with an Android device. So it's pretty exciting with the Razers coming out with a micro SD extension, 2 terabyte capacity, and that means you could put tons of games. If you're going to run an emulator on that phone, like some gamers might do, tons of games, all your music files, lots of videos. If you want to carry, sometimes I like carrying my game streams, my live, copies of my live streams, or my game captures on my phone to show people. So, yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah, they like to do kind of those off. I don't want to say off-brand, but off kind of kilter stuff. Like they had the health. Strap.
Oh yeah, the fitness thing. Yeah, and it's great. They're building out kind of a gamer focused ecosystem, which is a great play, right? I mean, you have people who are going to spend money on hardware already. So now it's feasible for somebody to live in an ecosystem that's composed of a Razer Blade, Razer Stealth Blade, ultra portable laptop, with or without a dedicated graphics card, or run with an external GPU enclosure. That's what they can have with them all the time on travel. They're super thin, super light, weigh nothing. And that person can also have on the Razer Fitness Band, and they can be paired with their Razer phone, right? And kind of all they need, right, is a Razer tablet. And I think it's completely acceptable and logical that somebody, since Razer, as far as I know, I don't think they have a tablet, that they might carry like an NVIDIA Shield tablet or an Acer Predator gaming tablet. And that's it, right? I mean, that's an incredible. I mean, there are consumer electronics companies that haven't put all that together, and here Razer has. So,
yeah. So actually, didn't they have the tablet where they had like the detachable things, or no? Was that something coming out?
No,
was that a different company?
No, you're right. You're right. They had the tablet with like the kind of kind of the predecessor to the Switch, right?
Yeah. I actually I totally forgot about that until just now when you said that about them not having a tablet. So yeah,
sold very well because I think it was like $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
It was $2,000 like at the beginning of
the low end.
Well, at the beginning of like the Windows, Windows 8, resurgence of the tablet era, right? So.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think that'll do it for episode number 20 here of E2KGN30. We went a little bit over 30 minutes, but that's all right. Like I said, it's sometimes.
And we got talking about the phone, right? So.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't go off topic or anything, so it's good.
Right.
So keep it on here. Tuesday we'll be back with our core show, enough to keep going, where we go over our topic of the week and our playlists. Probably separate those out this time around. We actually combined that this past week, as I guess Cleese had mentioned when we were talking about those big releases. And that's actually that you mentioned that. Maybe that's kind of something we can kind of do. Maybe once in a while, with those big releases come out like that, we just kind of talk over those type of games. We also have your other podcast. You actually have two other podcasts. You got Correction X, talking about The Gifted?
Yeah, so pretty exciting times actually. I got screens all over the place. So fellow E2KG Entertainment crew member Dave Pecci and I, our current assignment. If you remember, we watch kind of short format TV shows, so we're kind of on them for 6 to 12 weeks at a time. We do a bunch of podcasts about it, and then the show ends, by 13 episodes or less, and we end our podcast and put a bow on it and move on to the next thing. So right now we're watching The Gifted because it was contracted for 10 episodes. We're not clear if it's going to be extended or if they're going to be this short format season the whole time. But he and I currently, that's what we're doing our deep dive discussion on a weekly basis, is watching episodes of The Gifted and then talking about them on a podcast. And then the other new show, this is a GWW show with E2KG in partnership. But GWW owner and president Joe Barhoom has shaken a little time free to sit down with me once every couple of weeks and talk tech. So if you're into hardware, software, services, social media, it's mostly consumer focused, so it's not enterprise. We do every once in a while get into enterprise and talk business applications and engineering applications for some products. But mostly it's consumer. So and that show is called More Tech Than Time. So we've done one episode, and we're desperately trying to pull together recording the second episode this weekend. Nice,
awesome. All right. So yeah, keep it here on E2KG Network and also the GWW Network, and for these great podcasts. And also there's obviously other podcasts that the GWW does too. But for myself, Osiris Prime, and Mr. Agasicles Stamos, we will see you next time.